Genshin Impact is an incredible game with so much to explore. You have multi-dimensional characters, a beautiful world, and a deep lore. If you so choose, you could play Genshin Impact without interacting with its gacha system at all. However, at its core, Genshin Impact is still a gacha game, and these games make a bulk of their revenue by selling you characters that you have to pull for. A gacha system that may have worked in the game's first year or so tends not to be viable in the long run. And now that Genshin Impact is going to turn 6 years old soon, there are some glaring issues with its banner system. Over the years, the developers have only put band-aids on the banner system, but the system itself is in need of a major rehaul. This video is broken down into various sections, and at the very end, I will be giving suggestions for possible solutions. Before we get into some of the issues with the current banner system and my ideas on how we can improve upon it, I do want to take a moment to discuss the Bandaid Solutions that developers have put in place over the years. The first fix to come was not on the main character banner, but the weapon one, as there was no way to guarantee the 5-star weapon that you wanted. You could have lost over and over again and spent thousands of dollars to never get your Staff of Homa. In version 2, they fixed this by adding the Fate system. Every time you lost your weapon 50-50 or got a 5-star weapon that's not even featured, you would gain 1 fate point. If you didn't get your desired weapon twice, you would get 2 fate points. After that, your next 5-star weapon would be guaranteed to be the one you wanted, but your fate points did not carry over, so you were forced to pull on that banner if you really wanted that weapon. While this fix was greatly appreciated, if you were super unlucky, you could still be sinking in 270 pulls into this banner to guarantee your desired weapon. Thankfully, in version 5, this was adjusted again to only require 1 fate point, meaning if you lost your 50-50 one time, the next weapon would be the guaranteed one you wanted. This felt a lot better and made the weapon banner worth pulling on for some players, but you gotta take into account that this fate point adjustment came like 3 years later. In my personal opinion, it should have been 1 fate point from the start and even carry over to other banners. When the game first came out, we only had 1 character banner and 1 weapon banner every 3 weeks. I believe it was version 2.3 where we got our very first double banners. At the time, it was Eula and Albedo running together, and since then we've usually had 2 character banners up at the same time. This solution worked for a while, as we would typically get a new character and then an older character would be able to rerun much faster. The character roster back in version 2 and version 1 was a lot smaller, so double banners was enough back then to keep up. It even felt fine for some of version 3, but in version 4 when Fontaine released, we definitely felt the lack of reruns becoming an issue again. It was in version 4 when we got the first ever Chronicle Wish banner, which was another Bandaid solution. These banners were based on previous regions, and the first one was of course Mondstadt. You could get any of the Mondstadt 5 stars, including the standard banner ones, or their weapons, and the 4-star characters you'd get were most likely from Mondstadt too. The idea of this banner was not bad, but it was weighed down by the fact that you had 3 weeks to pull, it required your premium currency, you still had a 50-50 to win, and for Mondstadt, Liyue, and Sumeru, you could still get standard banner units if you lost your 50-50. These Chronicle Wish banners also had older units that aren't as relevant anymore, so it's hard to justify spending your pulls on these banners. There were just too many drawbacks. Lastly, 1 year later in version 5, we would get the latest Bandaid solution with the Capturing Radiance mechanic. Essentially, once you have lost the 50-50 enough times, the game will trigger this radiance, turning what would have been another 50-50 loss into a win. But in order for this to trigger, you can't just lose the 50-50 here and a little there, you have to lose it numerous times in a row. Those were all the solutions the developers added over the years, but they didn't feel like improvements, but rather a quick fix to help limp this outdated system along. I was really hoping we would get a complete overhaul with the announcement of the version 7 livestream, but I understand that was wishful thinking on my part. While this section briefly touched upon some of the banner problems, let's really get into them. As a gacha game continues to run, all of them are bound to run into this problem with their character roster. In order to keep players engaged and money flowing, they have to introduce new characters. Over time, you'll have too many characters and too little chances to pull for them. This is why the double banners were introduced in version 2.3 and the Chronicle Wish banners became a thing during the Fontaine version. I have to give credit where it's due, as Genshin was one of the gacha titles that handled its character roster really well for a long time. Other hoyoverse titles such as Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero have kept up with introducing 2 5-star characters every single patch. Genshin usually only introduces 1 new 5-star character per patch, with the occasional double every now and then. The last double we got was with Nicole and Lowen in 6.6, but I want to show you a pattern with banners celebrating the brand new region. The game's release had Venti and Klee. Inazuma had Yoimiya, Ayaka, and Sayu. Sumeru had Tainari, Kale, and Dori. Fontaine had Linny, Lynette, and Freminet. Natlan had Mulan, Kanish, and Kachina. Nodcry had Lauma, Flins, and Aino. Snezhnaya will only have Odette and Alyosha to kick things off, which is surprising to me that they are breaking this pattern. But even so, you probably realize that a lot of these region debut banners had 4 stars. I'll be talking more about 4 stars in another section. All things considered, Genshin had a slower time beefing up its roster compared to other titles, which is a good thing, but the problem still remains. There are characters that go years before they get a rerun, and if that's your favorite character, well then it sucks to suck. I actually don't think the Chronicle Wish banner is a bad idea, but as it stands there are too many downsides to pulling on it. Older units aren't as nearly as strong, and with these fancy new reactions that are required for certain enemies, your pulls are better spent on the newer characters. Wishes aren't exactly easy to come by either, as Genshin is one of the stingiest titles of the big gacha games for free pulls. So unless an older unit has completely captured you by their story, gameplay, or personality, these banners end up collecting dust for the 3 weeks that they are up. However, Genshin has been introducing buffs to help boost older characters, which might make them worth your premium pulls again. The first set of official buffs came with the Hexarai units. Complete a short quest and you'll unlock a new talent. For a lot of characters, these buffs came with the caveat that you need another character of a similar group in the same team for it to activate. For example, my boy Venti got some buffs, but he did not get them on his own. He needs another Hexarai unit in order to benefit from the buffs he received. Some other characters don't need another unit for their buffs to activate, like we're seeing with the Stellar Reaction buffs. Buffing older units is always welcome. It gives them a chance to be relevant again, and it can breathe new life into characters that we already love. Characters like Yamiko, Mizuki, and Risley are getting a second chance in the spotlight. Rest in peace, Sino fans, they did you dirty again. And characters that were almost unplayable like Chi-Chi are now included in some decent, if not strong, teams. There's a good chance that we will continue to get buffs for older characters in the future, and this is one of the genuine solutions that the developers put in place. And I like the idea of having all the newly buffed characters on a special banner for players to pull on. It's just with the Stellar Reaction banner, we had 2 standard units, which made the banner feel not nearly as valuable. Yes, we could still get Yamiko, Sino, Risley, and their weapons, but again, there were still too many downsides to this banner that deterred players from pulling. You might be catching what I'm putting down here. The banners themselves are not the problem, but rather the mechanics behind them. Getting an older unit feels a lot worse when you might have to drop 140 pulls to hit soft pity twice because you lost your 50-50. One of the few things Genshin does well in terms of its characters is continuing to introduce 4 stars in the game's roster. Other titles like Honkai Star Rail had completely abandoned this, as Mose was their last 4-star released in September of 2024. Zenless Zone Zero isn't nearly as bad, but the last 4-star was Monato in October of 2025. I think Wuwa has run into this issue too. So the fact that we're getting 4 stars on a regular basis is a good thing for the health of the game. But as always, there's a catch. Genshin features 3 4-star characters on every banner, and they rotate every 3 weeks, so you will get 6 4 stars with a rate up every version. If you choose to pull on the banner, you could dump hundreds of pulls and still not get the specific 4-star you want. This is why I did not have Kirara until they gave her for free in an event, and why my Yanfei remained at C5 for years because I could not for the life of me get the final copy for my girl. If that wasn't rough enough, some 4-star characters are stuck to specific 5-star banners. For the longest time, Kujosara would only appear on a rate-up banner if it was the Raiden Shogun. That pattern finally broke at the end of Nodcry, as the Raiden Shogun had a rerun and Kujosara was not one of the 4-star rated up units. For a long time, Goro would only appear as a rated up 4-star whenever Ito was featured as the banner unit. Some 4-stars just get locked in the basement too. Freminet had his debut when Fontaine launched, reran with Arlecchino's debut banner, and then disappeared for 2 years. Kaveh was another one that debuted in version 3.6 on Baiju's banner, and then disappeared until Navia's rerun banner in 4.8, and version 4.8 was July of 2024, meaning Kaveh is still missing. It's been 2 years, and I'm sure there are far more examples that you guys can come up with. It's unlucky 4 stars like this one that would hugely benefit from being in the Starglitter Shop rotation, and I'll talk about that a bit later. That way, players can save up and get these characters without having to wait literal years. I want Genshin to continue releasing 4-star units, but there needs to be a better way to obtain them. I personally think the Starglitter Shop can solve multiple problems at once, but I also have seen players ask for the options to select rate up 4 stars themselves. You can actually do this in Zenless Zone Zero. They just announced that you can pick which A rank agents you want on the banners. The only downside is that for ZZZ players, many of them already have the A rank characters maxed out, but if we apply this to Genshin Impact and its much larger 4-star character roster, I think a lot of players could really benefit from this. Genshin Impact gives out a small amount of pulls compared to all of the banners they are offering within a given patch. At the bare minimum, you'll have 4 character banners and 2 weapon banners per patch. And when you're only given 60 pulls, you have to really sit down and consider what banners are worth it. Remember, in order to guarantee a 5-star, you need 90 pulls. Realistically, you'll encounter your 5-star closer to soft pity around 75 pulls. A single patch sometimes does not even give you enough for a soft pity 5-star, and you could still lose the 50-50. This means you might have to go 3 patches to guarantee the character you want with 180 pulls, meaning you'll have to skip at least 12 character banners and 6 weapon banners. Now, to be fair, 60 pulls is near the low end of what Genshin gives on any patch. We have gotten better wish counts, but even so, a lot of the wish counts per patch stays under 90 wishes. That barely gets you a single 5-star. And I get it, I understand 5 stars have a rarity for a reason. You shouldn't be getting them left and right without spending money, or if you just get super lucky. However, I think it's fair to say that the amount of wishes given is disproportionate to the amount of banners available to the player. The developers know this, as they often rerun stronger, older characters next to new ones to incentivize you to open your wallet, or they make characters that synergize with each other really well run at the exact same time, so you're forced to pick and choose. For a more recent example, it was brutal to run Nicole and Durin in phase 1 of version 6.6, and then run Lowen and Malwika in the second phase. Nicole and Lowen were brand new, and Malwika is an Archon that still performs pretty well in gameplay as of writing this video. If you want your Lowen to be decent, you're gonna want at least Durin on his team, and he benefits greatly from Nicole too. And of course, this was the patch that gave us around 60 pulls. Genshin had begun to really push selling you teams instead of individual characters in the Nodcry version, and 3 perfect teammates ran back to back. If you are free to play or a low spender pulling in this version, you'd have to get stupid lucky to get all 3, but the more likely scenario is you left version 6.6 with 1 piece of the team or none at all. And with the version 7 live stream, Ineffa and Flynn's are running together in the second phase of version 7.0, and they synergize extremely well with each other. That is not a coincidence. And honestly, if you are free to play or a light spender, you can completely forget about the weapon banner. You do not even stand a chance. When was the last time any of you opened the Starglitter Shop? I don't mean the Stardust Shop where you get your 5 pulls monthly. I mean the Starglitter one. This one. Yeah, this shop is a ghost town. You can buy 4 stars, but they haven't updated the 4 stars in the shop since launch. That's ridiculous. It is not hard to add newer 4 stars to the shop rotation, and yet they refuse to do so. If you've been playing this game for any length of time, there's a good chance you already have the 4 stars that this shop offers, and if you've been playing for a couple years, you've likely maxed them all out by now anyway. I also find it unacceptable that there is no way to purchase standard banner constellations or their weapons through the shop. This is available in both Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero, and I believe Wuthering Waves has something similar to this as well. WoW players, feel free to correct me or expand on this in the comments. I like that once you C6 a character, you can get Masterless Stardust to level up a character to 100 if you desire, but there should be some shop options as well. It's stuff like this where Genshin Impact shows its age, but also its stubbornness towards change. You will not break the economy of your game by making constellations for a standard banner unit more readily available. Right now, the Starglitter you get has essentially one use. When you're out of Primogems and you're desperate for pulls, you run to the Starglitter shop to exchange what you've got for those extra pulls. I'm confident that there are plenty of players who would save up their glitter to get a standard banner constellation if they were just given the option. And yes, I know we had a constellation event where you could get a constellation for a batch of characters if you did daily missions for 2 months. I liked this event as we could get some constellations for a limited banner unit too, and I hope they continue this event in the future. And it turns out in the version 7 livestream they did announce that there will be new characters joining the constellation roster. My point here is that the Starglitter Shop is so outdated that it's almost a useless feature. Other gacha games are setting the bar higher by making their standard banner units purchasable in the shop, and Genshin should follow suit. Whether you jumped straight to this section or you have listened to the current problems that the banner systems have, I'm excited to talk about solutions. Some of these are more complex than others, but I think it's worthwhile to consider what could be changed to make your experience better. The first solution I have is the laziest one, and that is to just give more wishes per patch. I'm going to compare Genshin to Zenless Zone Zero, which is another hoyoverse title for this. In ZZZ, we get 2 S-rank agents per patch, and yet it doesn't feel as overwhelming because we get enough pulls to have an honest chance to get the banner characters. If the information I found was correct, ZZZ gives an average of 90 pulls per patch, usually more. This is more than enough to hit soft pity, and it guarantees you at least 1 S-rank character per version, even if it's a 50-50 loss. And if there's a character coming up that you really want, if you skip 1 patch, you should have enough to get the character you want guaranteed. In Genshin, your average wishes per patch fluctuates around the 70 mark. Sometimes more, but lately it has been less. Even at 70 wishes, it's not enough to get soft pity, so you might go a whole version without seeing a single new 5-star pop up on your screen. Remember, that's 6 weeks. So giving more pulls could make the banners feel better even though nothing about them has fundamentally changed. And it's because of this I call it the laziest solution. While we should expect more from a billion-dollar company, I would rather see changes to the banners themselves that would make the game healthier long term. This leads me to my second solution, which involves the Chronicle Wish banner. I like the idea of this banner, but as stated earlier, there are numerous disadvantages. It takes premium currency, you can still lose the 50-50, and the characters are usually outdated. My first choice would be to eliminate the 50-50. If you pull on a Chronicle Wish, you will get the character or weapon that you select. You might still get unlucky and pour 70 plus pulls into the banner, but at least you can go in knowing you'll get who you want if you have enough wishes saved up. Another way we can include older outdated units is to give the players option to alter their 50-50 lost selections on their banners. This is a feature in both Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero. Older limited units can replace standard banner units in the 50-50 loss pool. For example, what if you could add some version 1 characters like Eula, Albedo, and Klee? I bet you there would be many players who would love to lose their 50-50 to one of these older units even if they aren't as strong anymore. In Zenless Zone Zero, when you add a new limited agent to your 50-50 loss pool, you have to remove someone else. So imagine this, you don't like Chi-Chi. You don't want to get Chi-Chi'd anymore. If this feature was in Genshin Impact, you could swap Chi-Chi for Albedo in your 50-50 loss pool. I know Chi-Chi just got buffed and is decent now, but this would be a huge quality life upgrade. If you never pulled for an older unit, you'd have a chance to get them. Or if you just love an older character, you'd have an opportunity to get constellations for them in this way. My Eula has been benched for many years, but I would be happy to lose my 50-50 to her. Another way to alter the Chronicle Wish is to just have it require less pulls in general. Instead of 90 being hard pity and 75 being soft pity, maybe 60 pulls is hard pity. If it requires less investment, more players would be willing to give older characters a chance. And if Hoyoverse needs to polish these older units so that they can keep up, they can do so with buffs. My third solution still has to do with the Chronicle Wish, but it's to extend the duration of the banner to be the entire patch, not just 3 weeks. I think the solution is pretty straightforward and doesn't need much explaining. Older units aren't as desired, but if their banners lasted the entire patch, that's more opportunities to snag them, especially for newer players. My fourth solution is for the weapon banner. We already had a better fix in version 5 with 1 fate point, but I think Genshin should take it a step further. Make the weapon banner guaranteed. You would have far more players being willing to spend their limited wishes if they knew they could get the weapon that they're going for. I would go as far as to say that a handful of players might even spend extra money if they knew the weapon banner was guaranteed. Wuthering Waves has done this since its launch and has had great success with it. Considering that many of the new 5-star weapons are very niche to specific characters now, I think this change would be for the best. My last solution is to add a path system for the standard banner. You didn't think I forgot about that banner, did ya? As the game grows, all 4 stars get added to the standard banner, making it harder to get specific characters you desire. We've also had some new 5-star characters slowly join over time, increasing its roster. If the standard banner borrowed the idea of selecting a unit or weapon to hunt for from the Chronicle Wish banner, I think it would greatly improve quality of life for players. As it stands, your 5-star is completely up to chance. It could be a character or it can be a weapon. I've wanted to get the Amos bow for Ganyu since version 1, but I have never managed to snag it. Standard banner pulls aren't plentiful in the game anyway, so it would be nice to feel like I'm working towards something with such an old banner. It would still take a lot of time to achieve, but at the very least you can eventually obtain what you want. I know that there are going to be a handful of players who run into the comments to tell me that I'm greedy, that I should just quit the game, or that I should just shut up and be happy with what we get. I've seen it all before. But the moment you take a step back and start seeing what other games are doing, you begin to realize just how outdated some of Genshin's mechanics are. Why are domain materials still locked on specific days? Why don't we have a resin overflow system? Why can't we change our 50-50 loss pool? Why is there no skip button? All those mechanics I just questioned are in their other hoyoverse titles, by the way. Genshin is making a deliberate choice to not implement these features that have gotten positive feedback from their other games, so yeah. While I love Genshin for its characters, music, gameplay, lore, and much more, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's perfect. It's got problems that need to be fixed. I originally intended to have this video uploaded earlier, but with the announcement of the version 7 livestream, I decided to wait and see if they would update the banner system again. I was really hoping I'd have to rewrite parts of the script because they decided to blow us away with some changes. Turns out this livestream was underwhelming. We didn't get any banner updates, but we also didn't get quality of life updates either. Oh, but wait, we did get more pins for the map. That's something, I guess. Maybe the developers decided to save it for the anniversary patch that's expected for 7.1, but this doesn't feel good. The biggest thing we did get was an announcement for the new characters during the Constellation event. We still don't know if the event reset, so you can claim a constellation for someone you already redeemed or not. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Let me know what you think about Genshin's current banner system. Do you agree with some of my solutions, or do you have some ideas of your own on how this can be improved? I'd love to hear your thoughts, just remember to keep it respectful in the comments. My main focus on this channel is character design, so if conversations breaking that down sounds like a fun time, feel free to check out some of my other content. I know this video was one of my more critical ones, but I still am excited for Snezhnaya. I hope to see you in the next one.